All right, we could probably go ahead and get started here, folks. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you again to Adam from Inspired Flight for joining us today as we kind of take a look at the IF 1200 and kind of what makes it unique in its own way. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started here. A little intro about Multicopter Warehouse here. My name is Ryan. I run our public safety and inspection division of our enterprise team. But what we do here at Multicopter Warehouse is we like to consider ourselves a one-stop shop for pretty much all things UAS. Really, we're a DJI, Autel, and now Inspired Flight dealer, so we like to have options for our different customers. We also have dedicated industry professionals for our survey mapping department, inspection team, agricultural team. So we like to fill all needs here at Multicopter Warehouse, and then you kind of see our current customer base there of the different industries that we are serving, and we're growing every day. So please reach out if you have any questions about what we do here or other products that we may offer. And then as for Inspired Flight, I'll let Adam take over.
Yeah, well, first off, Ryan, thanks for kind of setting this up and having me on. It's been awesome to really work with Multicopter over these last 6 to 8 months, and really starting to see that relationship kind of ramp up. Help the industry hear more of Inspired Flight and of course Multicopter Warehouse. But a little bit about Inspired Flight. So Inspired Flight was founded back in late 2016, originally as a components manufacturer, where a lot of our initial IP was in our motor technology and internal componentry. Quickly realized that wasn't going to be a very good business model for us, so we kind of transitioned into full-on commercial drone platforms. And where our focus really is on that kind of that medium to heavy lift space, kind of what I like to describe as the 10 to 55 pound electric multi-rotor segment of the market. Really kind of the areas that we win today, where Inspired Flight's primary focus, first and foremost, always is going to be build quality, reliability, and safety. That's the first thing that's gotten Inspired Flight into the game, and kind of really what we like to lead with. That's the bread and butter for us. Kind of the next two things really that we like to focus on is providing full stack solutions to the market. Of course, the early years of Inspired Flight and this industry in general, we were a drone manufacturer. We were a platform manufacturer. As time's come on and kind of Inspired Flight's matured, our focus really has shifted to, okay, what are the solutions we can provide to the end user? Kind of that end-to-end solution, whether you're looking at surveying and mapping, and this is where our customer base comes in. Whether you're looking at surveying and mapping or LightR or public safety applications, search and rescue, Inspired Flight very likely offers a kind of a full stack solution for that. And then the preface for everything that Inspired Flight does is we're a Blue UAS certified manufacturer, and everything we build is NDA compliant. For us, we really like to think of that as kind of the prelude to talking about our equipment. At the end of the day, being American made and NDA compliant in blue is an incredible check off the box, but it's really about what does the product do for you in the field at the end of the day, and can it support your mission?
Yeah, and I think we could talk a little bit more about that Blue UAS, and I think that's something that a lot of drone programs are starting to take note of and looking at their options for, and it's something that we took very seriously when we wanted to bring on a manufacturer that had options for Blue UAS, and which led us right to you guys because of the build quality, reliability that these systems do offer. So as of right now, the 1200 is under the Blue UAS current certification. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. So the IF 1200, so Inspired Flight's first two systems, the IF 750 and IF 1200, are what I haven't checked it in a couple of weeks, are likely what you see on that website, the official DIU Blue UAS website today. In early September, we did have the IF 1200 Alpha, the aircraft we're really talking about today, accepted into the Blue UAS program. I don't know that the website's been quite updated yet, but we're happy we can certainly provide that documentation. But it is absolutely completely a Blue certified system.
Yeah,
that's I mean,
so that kind of opens up the availability to a lot of guys that are restricted in what they can purchase, and so yeah, that's a big reason why I think that we want to be behind it and whatnot. So
yeah, I mean, I'll say, like, Inspired Flight we never could have seen that coming, like the Blue UAS and NDA compliance. one of the main reasons I kind of contribute to whatever traction we've built up to this point in the industry. Back when this company was started in 2016, we made the decision, and looking back, more out of naivety than anything, we really decided to be an American focus and completely American source or friendly country sourced manufacturer. So all of a sudden in 2020, when this new NDAA Section 848 came down and Chinese components, drones were not allowed in many places in the market, we kind of had a multi-year advantage over some of our fellow domestic manufacturers and just orienting that supply chain.
Yeah, no, and that's great to see, and it kind of worked out in your favor for the timeline there to kind of get that head start and be able to then integrate right into it right when it came live. So, yeah,
any successful startup needs a few keystrokes of luck. So that was one we definitely couldn't see coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, as we kind of break into the 1200 here, I'll kind of let you take over and give kind of the brief overview.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, like the way we look at the i1200A is it's a ruggedized, robust, kind of do-it-all enterprise workhorse. Really a modular open system architecture platform that can be leveraged with a number of our full stack solutions and kind of the pre-integrated cameras and sensors that we through Multicopter Warehouse offer. And we'll get to some of what those are, I think, later in this presentation. But it's also built for kind of the folks that are looking for a future-proofed, flexible platform for a myriad of payloads, whether that's a government operator, whether that's a commercial kind of engineering firm that may have one camera system or one sensor they're using today, may want to add another, do a multi-sensor configuration. That's really what the i1200A is designed for. At the end of the day, it's the most reliable truck you're going to find in the industry. We have what we call in there a universal payload interface that provides effectively access to any sort of power voltage you would need, serial connection, access to the flight controller, really designed in a way to allow for kind of that custom integration of payloads. So that's, the i1200A has really been kind of split down the middle in terms of, is somebody buying it because they're going to be putting on their own thing? They have a capability that they're going to integrate, that they're looking to integrate into an aerial platform. A lot of folks that have these third-party capabilities or payloads, I'd argue that they're smart enough to realize that they don't want to get into the drone manufacturing business. And on the other side, you've got a lot of folks where they're looking at the i1200A. They need something reliable for, let's say, their LightR payload, right? If you're going to put $250,000 sometimes payload under an aircraft, the first thing you're going to want to be damn sure about is that there's some redundancies on board.
Yeah. Now, can you give us an idea, and this might be something you can't answer, but how many different custom kind of configurations have you seen integrated into your aircraft?
Ooh,
approximately.
How many? So we're just about to hit 200 i1200As in the wild. Kind of shipped since started shipping this aircraft last August, so just over a year, a couple months over a year. I mean, I've seen probably about 20 to 25 different types of kind of configurations built on board the i1200A. I think in the last slide, in this slide right here, that was a pretty custom configuration that was designed for a northeastern electric utility. What we're using the drone for there is line stringing, basically kind of that last mile line stringing in areas where there's a hospital, there's highways where it's pretty expensive, and hard for the utility to kind of shut down their infrastructure to fly a helicopter over. That's been an application that's been really growing for us across the electric utility industry. In the defense and the government world, with all the unfortunate events kind of happening around the world, that's driven the need for the i1200A for various capabilities, whether that's using thermal cameras, whether that's using some delivery mechanisms. So we've definitely seen quite a few things on there, and a ton of university customers, R&D customers, government customers that have taken the i1200A and they're really just using the hardware, and they've kind of built on some incredible autonomy stacks and basically getting the aircraft to do things way smarter than Inspired Flight can do by itself. which is really the
Sure.
goal. We're trying to just enable the industry to get up in the air and be productive. If that's what they want
I was
to do.
going to say, I mean, I think that if you can provide the hardware that they're able to then take in the direction that they want to go, it's gonna have more value than trying to do it all, rather than let the other guys that do what they do best integrate into what you do best. So I think
Yeah,
you hit it right on the nail there.
we know what we're good at, and that's hardware, that's reliability, that's safety, that's integrations of systems. Inspired Flight quite a long ways away from maybe designing our own camera or things of that nature.
Sure. Yeah.
This picture here is actually, I'm glad you found that. That was a pretty cool custom configuration that became fairly popular over the last year. That's actually a chemical spreader used for the mosquito abatement kind of industry. So basically, instead of doing it by hand on ATVs or crop dusters, a much more accurate way of spreading, I think what they would call like larvicide, a way to kind of decrease mosquitoes in your community. And that was an application I knew nothing about. And that's one of the things I've loved about Inspired Flight. And I'm sure you too, Ryan, and kind of in your world with drones. I get so many calls and people are saying, can I do this with the drone? And it's like, I would never have thought about that, but yes, you can, right? It's going to
probably,
it's going to increase efficiency.
It's
a cool world we're
it's
living
an
in.
It's a perfect example why is you find new uses every single day that will make your life way more efficient or your job way more efficient and ways to do it that's just different. So no, absolutely. And I think that as we point out some of the key features here in the aircraft that kind of shows that reliability and a reason why it's kind of a go-to hardware for integrating your different solutions into. If you want to talk a little bit more about like the different flight time and it being the sub 55 pound drone setup, so it does allow them to fly under Part 107 for most of these operations.
Yeah, so that was kind of one of the key design decisions made in I-1200A. On our spec sheet, whatever we cap the maximum payload at, which I think is 9 kilograms, 19.1 pounds, that brings you to effectively 54.9 pounds gross takeoff weight. So you can leverage the full kind of curve or payload capacity of the aircraft and remain in Part 107, not have to worry about operating under a COA or some other type of authority. Definitely pretty proud of the flight time. I mean, 24 minutes at 20 pounds. To be honest, there's not too many payloads out there, folks flying a 20-pound payload. Typically, usually you're flying like a big LightR and a big camera at the same time to get up there, or it's a more kind of government-focused use case. So really strong flight time curve. The majority of payloads we see on the I-1200A, and something tells me you've got a flight time graph somewhere in here, but 3 to 5, 3 to 5 kilograms generally what we see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so 3 to 5 kilograms, especially when you get into kind of the LightR stacks and all the cameras being even a little bit shorter than that. So quite a lot of productivity you can kind of gain there. If you want to go back a slide, Ryan, I'd say one of the other features I'd point out, I know I mentioned kind of LightR and expensive payloads reliability. One of the main things to point out is there's redundancies everywhere in the system, from GPS, which are RTK capable if needed, redundant GPS systems. We're running independent battery management systems, so that's a pretty cool feature, not available on most other systems. You can actually see the health of each. The drone uses 2 batteries at a time. You can see the health and the voltages of each battery on the ground level, kind of in real time. And 99.999% of the time, that doesn't matter, right? The batteries are going to operate the way they should. But in case something happens, it kind of creates a whole additional fault tree and scenarios of fail safe to get that drone back on the ground safely. And then one other that is pretty cool, and we're always happy to prove it with typically some dummy heavy payloads. But if you want us to prove it with your expensive one, we're happy to. Kind of a motor out redundancy, especially for things like LightR, those more expensive payloads. A motor failure, very, very rare. Typically, if you are going to lose a motor or something in flight, more commonly, to be honest, is a propeller failure or a bird strike. Motor failures, if you're kind of following proper maintenance, extremely rare. I mean, a motor failure in general is rare. But in reality, it's just kind of good, that good peace of mind to have that if you were to lose a motor, the drone's not going to just gyro itself kind of uncontrollably to the ground. So the operator's actually going to be able to maintain control. I mean, it's going to be sluggish control, but they're going to be able to get that back to a safe landing spot and bring that back to the ground.
Yeah, no, and I think that's something that is very important, especially when you're carrying something that's 3-4 times the cost of the hardware itself. To have that peace of mind when you're flying. So absolutely. Talked about the flight times. Now, as we look at the different payloads that are integrated into the 1200, what would you say are going to be the most popular setups today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say over the past 6 months, the Sony A7R has really become popular. And then there's the new ILX camera that just got released from Sony will be integrated into the i1200A shortly. Exact same sensor as the A7R, just smaller, more flight time. So that's probably been our most popular sensor because some of the capabilities kind of not necessarily of the hardware, but of the ecosystem that we're operating in on the i1200A. With the Sony A7R, let's say you're doing a photogrammetry mission, all your geotagged information, your timestamps is written directly to the image. I mentioned there's RTK and PBK options on the i1200A, capable of driving down to as low as 1 centimeter accuracies. So the Sony A7R is able to provide some pretty awesome results in a kind of a low cost package. From there, for that surveying world, the phase 1 has also become quite popular for us over the last year, especially in the utility, kind of that critical infrastructure space. If you're typically like your local surveying firm, right, they're buying the Sony A7R. But when you get into your big engineering firms, your electric utilities of the world, a lot of them even mandate the phase 1 technology for their inspections or their mapping. The quality you get out of a 100 megapixel sensor like that, it's pretty wild, to be honest, when you see that clarity. But if you're the right customer for it, you're the right customer for it. Typically, the folks looking for that capability they know what they need with that phase 1. So a lot of time that's folks that we integrated that based off those type of customers saying, hey, we need to use this camera. Can we get it onto that system?
Sure. And now in terms of like tower inspections and whatnot, do you see the phase 1 being utilized a lot for that? I know that we're a partner with Nate, and a lot of those guys really like to use the phase 1 because of the high megapixel option.
That's where we primarily see it, is specifically transmission infrastructure. You're not very commonly going to be using phase 1 on like distribution and residential areas, but really in those remote areas where you want a lot of standoff distance. Towers are typically far from each other, and then of course just the importance of making sure transmission infrastructure is good, like right, not at risk of failure, is really what drives kind of that use of that camera. So yeah, definitely in that transmission, the electric utility world. And then we've also, the other area we've seen a lot of the phase 1 is like airports, working with the FAA and doing what's called like pavement condition indexing, effectively mapping the runway and finding cracks, repairs. We've seen kind of some results from our customers that method of using the phase 1 over an airport is just so much more accurate than how things are typically done today, where an airport is maybe taking a random sample of 10% of the runway and kind of making some assumptions from that sample, which isn't always the most accurate method. So that's been a pretty cool application to watch grow for us over the last year.
And now for that
really lastly,
sorry, I was going to say, for the phase 1 and Sony A7R, they are both using the Grimsy, is that correct?
Yeah, they are. They're using effectively the same gimbal. They're both built on what's called the T3 gimbal. The phase 1 is called the P3. It's kind of a customized version for the phase 1 camera that also includes, if you kind of look at that picture, that little box on the top is a laser rangefinder that enables kind of that autofocus capability.
That's good to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Then from there, I mean, LightR has been Inspired Flight's bread and butter really since the beginning. I'd say on the i1200A, about 40 to 45% of our customer base is using LightR in some form. Some of them using one of these other cameras in conjunction. But LightR has been just a very typical use case for the i1200A, and especially as that technology has become more miniaturized, cheaper. Even in my last 4 years, the cost is probably halved for a lot of the LightR capabilities out there, and will continue to. So really awesome technology that we continue to see grow. And the i1200A is just a really solid fit for that kind of system.
And when you say in conjunction, right now, do you mean they're going to collect the data independently, or they're going to actually be mounted together?
Both. Well, they're collecting data independently, but what I really mean is the i1200A, just due to its kind of modularity and payload capacity, we've seen a number of configurations pretty popular to have, let's say, the LiDAR kind of mounted a little bit farther in the back of the aircraft, and in the front of the aircraft on the rail system is your camera.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, that's what I didn't mean together, but I just meant on the same mission, being able to actually be on the aircraft together. So yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then kind of looking at the different industries that we've kind of gone over, you were speaking about the LiDAR here. And I know that right now we are still in process of adding a LiDAR manufacturer. So we hope to have some options here for you shortly. But if you wanted to talk a little bit about the most popular setups in the LiDAR that we see with 1200.
Yeah, well, I'm fairly confident you guys are pretty close to kind of picking that up. Honestly, of these 6 manufacturers down here, it's pretty even across the board. I'd say the top 4 are your more kind of the direct folks you're buying it for. Regal and Teledyne are the laser manufacturers of the world, and a lot of these other companies are taking those components and bundling it into their system. Although Regal and Teledyne both do offer their own. But out of those 4, I'd say pretty even across the industry. Not necessarily any kind of favorite from us. Really, all 4 of those companies, or all 6 of those companies, just produce really reliable, capable, fairly easy to use. And I say that in very relative terms, right? Because LiDAR is you're a geospatial person and you understand complex technology. Somebody like me isn't hopping on a LiDAR system and processing that data in a short time period, I'll tell you that. But yeah, they're really cool technology. We offer kind of what we call a LiDAR integration kit. It's effectively a catch-all where if you're purchasing that, it's effectively going to guarantee that the LiDAR system you have, assuming that we know what that is and can provide the proper power cable and the proper mounting plate, will integrate well with the system. And of course, we've got kind of on the top of the aircraft, the mounts and the masts for the GNSS antenna that goes with the LiDAR system. So yeah, that's our bread and butter. If there's a LiDAR system out there that is meant for a UAV that we haven't integrated at this point, I'd be fairly surprised, to be honest.
Now, question about, so because you had mentioned it's RTK or PPK compatible. When collecting LiDAR data, would RTK be required?
No. I mean, somebody out there might correct me if I'm wrong, but not that I've seen. Typically, in a LiDAR use case, and that's really why Inspired Flight kind of started with LiDAR as a primary capability in the beginning. It's a very independent system, right? The LiDAR is really just hitching a ride on the system, and the aircraft can provide benefits, that data collection, through some of it, like how it flies curves, for example. One of the things an i1200A can do really well is fly what's called a spline turn, which is effectively, let's say you're getting to the end of a flight line. It's like think of it like a semicircle, a rounded turn, versus what some other aircraft do, which is like a 90-degree start and stop. Having that IMU in the LiDAR pressed against the edge of that gyro through that entire rounded turn instead of kind of starting and stopping, it's going to provide for much better data quality. But other than that, it fairly is an independent system, right? It's got its own GPS antenna, and then the LiDAR's got its own IMU, its laser, it's doing its thing.
Cool. Yeah, I know we've seen with systems in the past that without RTK, your data is not going to come out. It's not going to be able to be processed. So I thought that was the case, that it didn't need it, but I just want to make sure. And then as we get into RED and OEM, what do you see kind of the most popular setups within this industry?
Yeah, well, that one's kind of up to the operator, right? In the, let's say, the university space, we're selling to a lot of engineering departments or a lot of geospatial departments that are kind of using the aircraft as a test bed for either their undergraduate or graduate program going through, and having a system that, let's say, every semester can be modified for whatever the project for that quarter is or that semester. That kind of just goes back to the I-1200A being, it's an RG pilot based open source system. And then from a hardware perspective, there's a 25 pin connector on the bottom of the aircraft that gives you access to kind of these, what you're reading here, right? Power voltages, serial connections, PWM connections if you're trying to trigger a servo. Just provides for kind of a flexible platform to do what
Sounds
you
like
need
very
to do.
customizable for these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking to integrate a custom, like a companion computer to drive autonomy, it's definitely designed to support some of those missions. And one of the things about Inspired Flight and working through our dealer partners like Multicopter, we're always willing to, I mean, we're certainly not going to say yes to everything. There's a lot of requests or applications or configurations out there where it's like, if you want to, like, that's on you, right?
Sure.
But there's also a lot of times where we're willing to engage and we're willing to kind of lean in with that end user and through Multicopter and really kind of get into the weeds and provide. We have an integrations engineering team that can be tapped into if needed. And that just allows for us to provide kind of our subject matter expertise on the aircraft and really just try to let you focus on what you're good at, which is whatever capability you're looking to integrate. And at the end of the day, right, the drone is simply a tool to enable whatever application you're trying to do. Nobody's taking the I-1200A and flying it around for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, but that'd be a pretty expensive toy.
I mean, we've done it here a few times, but you know. Cool. And then in the defense and government industry here, being on the blue list, I'm sure you've seen an increase of purchasing by the government.
Yeah, the Blue UAS program has certainly been kind of a blessing to Inspired Flight. Not without its challenges, I will say. It's made kind of the processes and the things that Inspired Flight has to do on the back end to support being approved into the Blue UAS manufacturer. It's forced us to really grow up as a company a lot quicker. Certainly isn't a bad thing, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, the Blue UAS, it's been incredible for kind of a marketing perspective. At the end of the day, you can look to the industry and folks kind of that are looking to find, let's say, a new US made platform. A lot of times you can look at that blue list and basically you're saying to yourself, well, if it passed the DoD vetting, and some pretty serious vetting that's going on to get those systems approved onto the Blue UAS list. Typically what we hear a lot of customers saying is it speeds up that initial search process, right? Because if it's good enough for the DoD, if it's past their cybersecurity or their supply chain standards, it's probably going to pass our companies. So that's really helped a lot, and it's kind of given folks just a starting point to see what aircraft works for them. That kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of Blue UAS, American made. It's the prelude, right? Once that box is checked, then let's have a conversation with that user of, okay, how does this aircraft specifically solve your problem? You don't have to worry about the government regulations, the geopolitical kind of environment we're living in. It meets all that. How do we solve your problem, and whether that's making you more money at the end of the day, reducing your operational risk, your human risk. That's really what I'm excited about building aircraft.
Yeah, I think it's a great system to be able to handle that. And then in the oil and gas inspection field, what are you seeing most popular setups within this industry?
Yeah, so this is a fairly recent partnership, probably around the same time we started working with you guys, about 5-6 months ago. We fully partnered and collaborated with a company called SPH Engineering. If you've ever used UGCS as a mission planning software, these guys, SPH Engineering, is responsible for that program. So really widely used across the industry, really respected kind of team and mission planning software. This kind of has to do more with some hardware capabilities that we worked with them on. SPH Engineering builds what's called the UGCS Sky Hub. effectively a companion computer, and it's been very popular with DJI systems over the past few years. And we started working with SPH because, like a lot of folks in the industry, right, they need an American solution to offer to their customer base. So that companion computer really enables kind of the plug and play integration of 4 or 5 different payload capabilities. So some of the ones kind of written here, the Laser Falcon from a company called Program, that's for methane detection. With some of the new EPA rules that have just recently kind of been put in place, that's become a really popular configuration for us, selling to kind of environmental protection agencies in the government, natural resource conservation type industries, and of course your standard oil and gas customers that are looking to kind of understand where their methane leaks and things of that nature. So that's been a really cool one. Some of the others that are made possible through the SkyHub system are magnetometers, ground penetrating radar, bathymetric sonar, which is what this picture is being showing here. It's effectively kind of mapping the I don't know how to say it, the pond or the lake that's here, seeing kind of the ground.
It's actually dipped in the water. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. It's there's a really cool sonar system on the end of that string that's collecting all that data.
Wow, that's pretty sweet. I have not. That's the first I've seen that. Like you say, you find new uses every day.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, you're using magnetometers for things like mineral exploration, abandoned oil wells exploration is a big one right now. Again, there's just so many use cases that are out there.
The magnetometer, and it's pretty interesting to see it hang super low beneath the drone, and it kind of be able to fly almost ground level and collect that data. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, really cool stuff.
Yeah,
and then kind of a big one.
Applications. You're doing some active terrain following.
Yeah, no, it's pretty sweet. Yeah, we have a customer that's shown us in the past, and yeah, no joke for sure. And then kind of a big one I think people are interested about is the Inspired Care and warranty that would come included with the purchase of IF system.
Yeah, so kind of just our standard across the board. I should start by saying support means everything in Inspired Flight. That's really, I think, one of the things that's gotten us off the ground, gotten us to this point, and really helped us expand our dealer and distribution network so widely, is just kind of that commitment to supporting our end users, and recognizing that just because a box leaves our warehouse, it doesn't mean that the job's done. Right? We're going to support that customer through and through as they both learn and adopt our technology, and then of course continue to expand with it. So standard 1-year warranty on all our systems. I think pretty self-explanatory what that offers. But one of the more kind of exciting things that we offer that not all of our peers do is what we call Inspired Care, kind of a full-on enterprise support and maintenance program. Enables training, it enables super big discounts on spare parts, repairs. It expedites turnaround times, guarantees you're kind of front of the queue for support. So the link on the bottom there will take you to our website that shows kind of think of like a good, better, best program, kind of 3 tiers of this Inspired Care. And the highest level is something that we just rolled out about a month ago that we're pretty excited about. The elite level of Inspired Care. It's effectively like a guaranteed uptime program, right? For our customers, for our end users out in the field, anytime that drone isn't in service, right, they're losing money, right? They're not getting a job that they need to get done. So that elite level effectively guarantees, like, let's say you have a drone go out of commission, whether that's user error, manufacturer error, it doesn't matter. It includes kind of a no questions asked. We're going to overnight you a replacement system so that you can get back up in the air as fast as possible while we either repair your system if it unfortunately crashed, or even as a replacement. That program includes, let's say you can total a drone. No questions asked on whose fault is it. We'll replace that if you're bought into that elite level. So these programs, the elite level, it's available up to 3 years on the system. And with that, we also offer that additional 2 years of warranty on the system. So you can get a 3-year effectively warranty on all Inspired Flight systems. And whether or not you're actually opting into that program or purchasing kind of the 3 years of extended warranty, or 2 years of extended warranty. I think it really just speaks to our users and our customers what, like, hey, Inspired Flight is actually committed to supporting this product for the foreseeable future. I think the drone industry has been privy and fallen into the traps of, oh, hey, we just came out with a new drone, the one you bought from us 9 months ago. We're not going to support that anymore. We're not going to release it. But that's really not how this industry can scale, right? Folks are making serious investments into this technology. It needs to be something that you can rely on for years to come.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding correctly, so all aircrafts would come with a 1-year built-in warranty, and then with the option of adding the additional coverage to it?
Yep. Yeah. So 1-year warranty is included no matter what, right? The Inspired Care program is an optional program for customers. It's not something that they need to buy. So they're always getting that 1-year warranty. And I'd say even our free basic support is pretty good. You're going to get in touch with somebody from Inspired Flight. You're gonna get on the phone with somebody back here. But if you've ever watched like The Office, the game I like to play is like, just call Inspired Flight. Go look up on Google what our phone number is. And you'll call and you'll get 2 options. Do you want to speak to sales and support? I'd say 85% of the time you're connecting with somebody right away.
I love that scene too. It's perfectly describes you guys, because it's like, it's what you get when you call a big box store. Here's what you get when you call Inspired Flight. So absolutely, right. Yeah.
Yep. And as we grow, we're certainly we want to become that big box mover, right? That volume kind of seller, but with that is the commitment to also scaling the support structure on that back end.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that being dedicated to customer support and those that do make that investment is key. And I mean, it's what our customers look for, and what we try and say sets us apart, because we deal with a lot of guys that will be given even a DJI system, and the dealer says, oh, you're off and running, and we're not here to answer your questions. So to be able to rely on your dealer, your manufacturer, to be able to answer your call and address your issues is something that's very much needed in this industry. So we'll open that last part up for questions. If you guys wanted to use the question box there to drop any questions that we may or may not have answered for you.
Yeah, while we're waiting for some of those questions, I will finish with I do want to say that's one of the reasons I've loved working with a Multicopter, and kind of why I wanted to work with you guys ever since the beginning is you guys definitely have a great reputation out in the industry for providing that similar level of support and kind of having those similar values. I think that Inspired Flight does. The customer is what matters at the end of the day. The end user in the field is what truly matters.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
We might just have been that good, Ryan.
I think we might have been. Yeah. Well, our contact information is on screen there, so please. Oh, we got one here. Let's see. We got one that says, can the unit be set up to run RTK if wanted?
Yes. Yeah. Yes is the short answer. We'd probably want to know kind of a few more details of, are you looking to are you using RTK for like surveying and mapping applications where you're wanting that correction data automatically injected onto the imagery, of course, which is an option down to the 1 centimeter level? Or we've also had some customers where they're looking for RTK for like positional accuracy of the aircraft, and really just trying to get the positional accuracy and the heading of the system to a more accurate number. So bottom line, that answer is yes, and the Multicopter team can certainly speak to those capabilities.
Absolutely. Yep. So if you don't have any others, like I said, our contact information is on screen. Please feel free to reach out with any other questions you have. We will have this recording up on YouTube probably by tomorrow or so. So feel free to rewatch it if you wanted to see some of the specs we talked about. But thanks again, Adam, for joining us today, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.